everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. If you'd like to join us here in the room, you'll find the schedule in our monthly newsletter and on my website at lindanickell.com/happiness hour. Tonight's guest is Doug Gephardt. Doug is a Texas Hill Country photographer with a keen eye for the beauty found in the everyday. With camera in hand, Doug roams small towns, quiet back roads, and the offbeat corners of the countryside, capturing the charm of quirky country signs and the unique characters of rural life. His love for black and white photography allows him to transform common scenes into striking, timeless images, revealing the art in the often overlooked details of life. Whether it's the subtle texture of weathered wood or the contrast between light and shadow, Doug's work invites viewers to see the world through his lens, where the simple things hold extraordinary beauty. In tonight's presentation, Small Town Tours, Day Trips Destined to Inspire. Doug will share his experiences with intentionally planned photo jaunts that he calls Small Town Tours. Doug will share some of the learned lessons and good strategies for successful day trip tours to capture small towns, their history, ambiance, people, and character. If you're on Instagram, you can find him at Doug Gep, and I will link that in the show notes. So with that, welcome to the Happiness Hour, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me get this share going.
No,
And
no, no, no,
not
no.
yet?
Did we
Oh,
not have this
we
conversation?
already had that. That's right. I want to fill in a little bit about myself. I mean, Linda, thank you
Oh, okay,
so
go ahead.
much. Thank you so much for, I'm just excited to get going and share what we've got.
No.
Uh,
So do you know why you're here?
I know, what?
Do you know why you're here?
Why am I here?
So apparently, and I don't know if this is the same presentation you did, but I saw your name pop up as doing a presentation for Pods, which is the photographers of Dripping Springs. That is a photo club
Right.
in Dripping Springs, Texas, in the middle of the hill country. And I really wanted to go, and I could not make that meeting. I don't often attend meetings because I'm just not. I hate meetings. So, but I wanted to listen to your presentation and I just couldn't make that happen that day. So I thought, I'm just going to ask Doug to come and speak to my group. So you're here at my pleasure.
Thank you. Well,
So
and actually, this presentation is an outgrowth or an expansion of the original presentation I did with Pods,
perfect.
which was on the concept of personal projects. So this that we're going to be talking about today is an application of of doing personal projects. And
Okay.
so, yeah, and also I just want to thank you, Linda, for both the opportunity and this show. I mean, this was a lifesaver during COVID. I mean, wow, it was, it was like the only thing I could latch on to, right? So really appreciate that. An expansion I've been wanting to do on this small town tour concept. It's not rocket science, but it's just practical, But man, we've had fun doing it, and I've got a couple people that have done this with me. We go out in small groups. So RJ Chioki is here, and Diz is here also. And thank you for supporting me, guys. I appreciate it. And we've had a great time, and it's all about exploration. And so that's what we want to talk about today.
Okay. Doug, I just kind of I said I wrote your intro because that's the way I see you. What did I miss? Is
It
there
was
something that you want to share that I just don't know?
It was wonderful. No, it was wonderful. I would just say to people, A, for me, photography is discovering creativity because I come from an engineering background. So I'm coming at it from the technical side. I could just be technical, but that's not photography, right? That's just science of gathering light. So I use photography as a vehicle for fostering creativity, right? To getting it out of me or getting it into whatever, however you want to think about it, but really pushing hard on that creativity button because otherwise I'm just going to stay super techno geeky, right? And so photography for me is about exploring creativity.
Okay. All right. With that, let's get it going.
Okay, all right. So I made something a little fun for our first slide. So actually, RJ took this shot. Assuming you guys can see it. And uh, anyway, we saw it and we decided, wow, that'd be a great place to just stick whatever message we wanted to here. So welcome to Happiness Hour. You've got my Instagram there. I'm also a recent ham radio. That's my KJ5FZS is my ham radio call sign. As if I didn't have enough hobbies, but I've been doing that too. But anyway, what we're going to be talking about today is small town tours. It is from a Texas, perspective, but we've really got people from all over the nation here, so you can apply this. I'll try not to be too Texas specific. You can apply this to uh, anywhere you're at, right? And in our case, we've got a lot of small town, I would call it targets of opportunity for photographers around here. And RJ was the one who said, "Man, we should really do something like this." So we started, and then once we got started, we just couldn't stop. So really starting to hit all the compass sites and coming up with all sorts of different ways and places to go. So the whole idea is a day trip, and so we'll kind of let me get my arrows going here. So a little bit about what she already shared, what Linda already shared. Um, they're just intentionally planned photo jaunts. So to me, photo jaunts are very very opportunistic, or you just plan them, but basically in this case, we're saying let's plan some things out and plan it out over time. And so, like I mentioned, Diz, Whitney, and RJ are here today. Look at their Instagrams too. They put a lot of cool stuff up. But it's really overall about photo documentary of Texas small towns. Some things, I'm afraid they'll be lost forever if we don't capture them now, right? Other things, we're celebrating the rejuvenation of small towns and them finding their way, in a modern world. So uh, we don't ever want to look. I mean, I'm not coming at it, at a looking down or making fun of the small town. I love small towns. And so that's why I go out and take pictures of them, because I just love them. I mean, I grew up in Arkansas. I had lots of time in small towns around Arkansas and the Ozarks. So this is just small towns are my kind of thing. So I love going out and taking pictures of them. Another aspect is we have an eclectic mix of cameras, meaning it's never one camera. We're taking film shots, we're taking digital, we're taking 360 cameras or video, whatever just inspires creativity and helps us capture the essence of that small town we're dealing with. So is it silly that we're taking, four cameras on a photo jaunt? Yes, but we're just finding different ways and different methods of expression. So I'll be sharing some of those mixed media as we go here. Um, and so anyway, it's all about capturing and creativity. We'll pop in some learned lessons and good strategies on what we've learned so far in doing these. I'm covering 5 trips today that we've done, and be sharing a lot of photos out of that. But I am going to go through a few, some of this pre-pinned of lessons learned and things like that. We'll go through them quickly, and then we'll get to dive into the photos. So like I said, just a series of day trips, and really doing each one is modeled as a circuit, meaning like we define a loop. We're gonna hit this town, then look on the map, pick these towns, make a loop, and that's our day. This is much easier. What was kind of amazing to me, or what I learned along the way, it's so much easier both motivationally and planning wise to have someone else that you're doing this with. Also, it's just good to not a little bit of safety factor, not being alone. So a small group, and in our case, we're kind of we define a carful, right? We have a vehicle and we want to, we've got 5 spaces or whatever, and we fill it if we can. Um, but no matter what, we're going to go out and shoot. So that's what we're doing. Uh, I wanted to cover our rules, and it's not not formal rules, but just the way we operate. We decided to operate, and some of these RJ really popped in with, and we make very clear, especially with the other people in the car, anyone can call a stop at any time. So if they see something they want to capture, you just have to say, "Hey." But I see something and the driver will pull over. So I like that rule a lot because maybe traveling with my spouse or kids or something, that may not be the rule, right? So it's fantastic to be on a ride where you get to do that. And just say, hey, oh, I want to take a picture of that building or that old rundown, whatever, whatever. A few other rules. None of these are big deals, but it's just like what we do. Eat like a local, which just is saying, if when we do have lunch, and usually we have lunch on these trips, we try to make that at a local business, not at KFC or whatever, and just kind of give back to that community and also just experience that community. It's part of the experience. The other thing is just don't rush, and don't rush others. Give time for the creative process. That's just also unlike traveling with your family, maybe where you're dragging along and they're trying to walk somewhere and you just want to stop and take a picture on these trips, everybody has time. And so that's another good thing. Another thing we've learned is we just start earlier than comfortable, meaning I'd rather sleep in and get started at 10, but since it's going to take an hour to get to the first town, it's really better to start early and you really appreciate it. Some
Here, you
downtown
call it John
areas
Turner.
in these small towns, it's wonderful to really be able to get there before a bunch of people are there. You can get some better photos and then it fills in over time. So you kind of see that process of the town coming awake. So we usually just start at a coffee shop somewhere for the takeoff point, all climb into one car and head out. And so, yeah, so minimizing vehicles is the other thing. Just traveling together builds relationships, helps foster ideas, all that good stuff, and we have a good time. Um, so on planning and just a couple more slides and we'll get to pictures. Um, you know, my take on this is research just enough to have a solid plan, which means don't over research it. Don't have, leave yourself room for discovery, right? But you want to have, a solid plan, a day that will work. So Google Maps is your friend. I've got an example in here of saving a trip route. So you can kind of see, we can plan out, make sure the trip times all works out between the towns. In Texas, they can be pretty far apart sometimes. And so you want to have a good plan. And then also, if there's specific points of interest, like a county jail, which you'll see in a few minutes, or a memorial or something like that, you can save points of interest. It just makes it easier to find them on the fly. And then also is the aspect that I like a lot from an exploration perspective on the small towns, which is Wikipedia is your friend. Wikipedia has some kind of entry from almost every small town. And so that's my number one source for basic details. You get points of interest, you get the incorporation history, which is really of interest to me. How was it founded? Who founded it? Why did they found it? Why did a town get started in this location? Is it a railroad town or a river town or whatever? And then even earlier history, it's good to have that background too, for with Native Americans in the area, whatever, and just get that cultural and early days uh, knowledge on a town, which really helps you explore better. So just then, I think this is about the last one before we get into the trips. Lessons learned, always hydrate. You'd never know where if you're going to be near a convenience store or not. So just carry fluids. bring and wear sun protection. You'll see an example in a minute of a place where I burned the top of my head that doesn't have quite as much hair on it anymore. And because we found some longhorns, and it's like, I'm going to take pictures of these cows. This is awesome. But end up getting pretty burned. And then the other thing is just limit your set of towns to a reasonable day trip, meaning you don't want to get burned out and really strung out in a day. So as an example, you'll see two examples of southeast Austin, southeast of Austin trips because we wanted to pick up all the towns we want to spend time at, but all in one day would not have been a fun day for me, as an example. So just limit it to something that works well for the day. And just do it. Make those concrete plans. That's the other advantage of doing it with somebody or a small group of people is that it kind of commits you. You say, I'm going to do this on this day, and you put it on your calendar, then it kind of helps with self accountability, right? Of deciding to go out. Okay. So let's transition into talking about some of these tours we did. And that's really the balance of the presentation is uh, is going through some of our tours and some of my favorite pictures from these towns. Our first tour was going northwest of Austin. So the big towns of Burnett, Bertram, Lano, how do we say it in Texas, Marble Falls. And so this was kind of our first one where we're kind of exploring the concept of doing a small town tour. And it was fantastic. We had a lot of fun. So let's look at some of those pics. But about this tour, this was 2022, northwest of Austin. In this case, I took because people always ask, so what was your equipment? I'm kind of a collector of both film and digital cameras, so you're going to see this change over time. I tell people I'm polycamerous, but that's just I use different cameras for different things. In this case, for digital, I had a Sony A6500 and a Canon E1 for my film camera. And then this is just a quick map in case if you are from the area and you want to kind of recreate this trip or something. That's we did Bertram, Burnett, Lano, and then back loop around the Marble Falls. And it was a great trip. Um, so starting off in Bertram, we found this guy. This is a film shot. This guy painting a mural as that's as like selfless as it can be. It was 8 a.m. Nobody was in this downtown, but he was there with a scaffold painting a mural in Bertram, Texas. And so we had a great chat with the guy. He's a good sport, let us take some pics of him. Um, but he was just there painting a new mural for the town. And then I always really the small towns theaters is one of the go-to things. Meaning, if they have a theater, I'm going to take a picture of it, try to capture it in its best light or whatever. But I love the old theaters in small towns, and so this is the Globe in Bertram, and this is a film shot also. And then here's the digital shot from my Sony camera and having fun with it. And you'll see not everything black and white is film because as Linda talked about, I love to do black and white treatment on photos and see things in black and white. So you're going to get some of that today. So there's the big Bertram, City of Bertram offices there, the water tower. It is not a county seat. We spent a lot of time going to county seats. In this case, Bertram was on the way. We wanted to stop and check out the downtown. So there's your City of Bertram building and the water tower and the flag flying proud. This is a film shot, same slightly different angle, but got the City of Bertram there. Now this was like as downtown as it gets, but a house that had just been sitting empty for a while. I love empty houses too. And then this is transitioning, when we got to Burnett, they were already setting up their farmers market or market around the square. So Burnett is a county seat. So there's the county courthouse in that square. They do, a Saturday morning market, farmers market, other stuff besides vegetables and stuff. But this lady she let me, she asked for permission, but just can I get up, right behind and beside you and get this picture of your hands doing this handwork, needlework that you were doing. Well, that was just a fun shot. Also in Burnett there, we had a great time talking to the barber. Uh, the barber had been there for a good long while. I mean, this barbershop had been there literally forever. Uh, and he let us take some shots in the barbershop, and we got some shots of him too. Uh, Super friendly guy, and we really enjoyed talking with him at the local barbershop. Also, on these town squares or in these small towns, there are some buildings that are not occupied. And to me, those are just as interesting as the occupied ones. And so this is actually one of my favorite unoccupied small town shots, just because of the lighting and what I wanted to do with it in black and white and get the light coming in from the door, but and the hanging light bulb wire. So this is the kind of thing that draws my eye, and I like to shoot, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really have fun with it. My other thing I have fun with is alleys, back alleys. I can't resist a back alley shot. So you'll see a lot of those in the presentation here. Back alleys are just always interesting to me, and it's kind of like showing the side that everybody's not trying to show you, and so you'll see a lot of those as we go. This is when we got to Llano proper, and it is a river town. It's the Llano River. There's a dam and a lake behind that dam, and then the road bridge over to downtown, so you can see the county courthouse tower right there in the distance. But this is an HDR shot, so made from 3 exposures on that Sony A6500. And then this is a film shot. I loved it with that uh, young man fishing down on the river. And so I wanted to catch him with that shot. And that came out well for me. There's also, so these small town tours are also about discovery. And there's always something. That's why I kind of like discovering instead of like hyper researching the town. I didn't know till we got there that it has a rock stacking festival, an Earth Day festival every year in Llano. So this is some remnants of the rock stacking competitions that were going on down in the riverbed down below the dam. And then some waterworks right beside the dam, old waterworks. And this is a back alley just back behind Charlie's store, and nice and colorful. I love stuff, surprise, colorful painting stuff where you don't expect it. Another place actually from that same back alley courtyard. Patterns. I'm always looking for patterns, so you just can't. If I see a pattern, I'm gonna take a picture of it. This was just an outdoor piano out in front of one of the stores. Somebody had painted it. Lots of fun. I liked that. Caught my eye. There's the Llano Theater. Always got to get a picture of the theater. So there's the Llano Theater. And every once in a while we find a place where they let us inside, or we go inside and we can take some shots inside. This is just a film shot of a musician on the square selling his CDs and playing for everybody. And we had a great time talking with him too. He's very gracious. Let us take some shots. Old gas dispensers are another fave of RJ's and mine. And so if I see one, I'm gonna shoot it. Just more buildings in Llano. I'm a sucker for bricks and lines and light, shadows. And there's yours truly. It was hotter than Hades that day, so getting a shake at the local fountain that was still operated as a a fountain bar where you could get sodas and shakes. We availed ourselves of that. And this is the other, you eat local, so eat like a local. So This was the plate at the local place. Along with I don't have this for every trip, but we do like to take pictures of the cameras we have on hand. Along with, I don't know why we do it with our food, but somehow the food plus the cameras always gets a shot. So you can see my Kennedy one. You can see somebody's Leica over there with a little red dot, and he's still trying to convince me of their superiority. So may get there someday. So that was Northwest, and so our second tour that we did was to the big towns of where I don't even know how to say it, Wahlberg, Schwertner, Bartlett, and Granger. You'll see if you're in Central Texas, you see signs for them off the interstate in I-35 off to the east. So this is when we went out to the northeast around in Williamson County. So this was in May of 2022, just northeast of the Austin Metro. And this time I took my Olympus Pen F, camera that I dearly love, and my trusty A1, a couple different films, and also took my 360 camera this time, my Insta360 ONE RS, which were just some fun shots and video. So this is an example I mentioned before, using Google Maps to actually make and save off, your route and what you want to hit. So this, you see, we go from Weir to Wahlberg to Schwertner, Bartlett, Granger, and back. And we started from a Starbucks, on I-35 in Georgetown. So this was our route that we stayed pretty close to, and just shot what we found along the way. So this is how, if I have time, I'll do a save off a loop like this, um, just to be organized, but we're not always that organized, and that's okay. This was in Weir. It's pretty much an abandoned rail line. That was probably the reason for existence initially of Weir, a grain silo and the railroad, and a rail stop that was no longer functional. But that's a film shot, and then also a digital shot with my Pen F, taken along that old rail line. Um, and then here's some shots. Got several shots here because I hadn't taken pictures at a grain silo, at an old silo for a long time, and I took a lot of shots. I'm not sharing all of those, but you'll see these silos that we kind of walked around and took some pictures of just to explore. There was nobody there; it was basically abandoned, but wanted to go take a look at them. So uh, kind of a rural exploration a little bit. Um, that's a shot of it's a little snail shell by it. So as Linda was talking about, just about anything can interest me. So if I see, something on a micro level, I'll take a shot of that as much as a beautiful landscape. And this is just one of those railroad ties, railroad things that hold the rail down onto a tie. More silos. Then we got up close to the silos, looked around. Some of this I just like the compositions on. And this was just a intentional composition that I liked what I saw there. Um, we were able to peek inside of some of those. There are some open windows in the silos, so that's what the bottom of the silo looks like. If you ever wondered, inside that big tube, it does funnel down to stop, and then there's usually a motor or something that takes what's falling out of that and pumps it up a pipe to go into some kind of bin. Uh, there are lots of shots of Doug. When I see a reflection of myself, I can't help but stop. That was also in Weir. And then between Weir and Schwertner, we just driving. Somehow Google sent us down a dirt road, and we did it anyway, even though we're like, I'm not sure this is the way we're supposed to go, but it's part of the exploration. So this is a film shot of power lines in the corn. And it was kind of interesting to me that the power lines were it's not like they had a corridor. They were just set up the towers over the cornfield. And it was just kind of a fun place, film, and then a digital shot there. I call this one Which Way Do I Go? And that was just right there at those power lines with the cornfields. This is one of my favorite shots of RJ that I captured of him doing his masterwork with his Leica, and I got a film shot of him while he was capturing something interesting. Like I said, we just stop. If somebody says, "That's interesting, let's stop," we stop. And that's kind of the fun part of the trip of just discovering what's out there and finding something to do and shoot. Just random fields on the way. I love hay bale rolls wherever they are, so I'm almost always going to stop if I'm with somebody that'll let me stop. And also the road. This is another reason why it's good to have someone with you and not be alone, because if you want to take a shot like this, you want to make sure somebody's watching back the other way and make sure nobody's coming. But this was just fun on the road on the way to Shortner. So here's beautiful, sunny Schwertner, Texas. Basically just crossing in the road, not too much more than that. But we can say we were there. A little town with a big heart, is what they're saying there in Schwertner. Uh, right before we got to that intersection that is basically Schwertner, we found an old cotton gin that was on the way. So this is just that discovery and exploration aspect where you never know, you never know what's going to be there on the road as you go. We saw that and said, let's stop and take a look at that. And this is the exterior, and then we were able to get in and look through some windows. So it's not urbex because it's not urban, but it's rearex, or I don't know what to call it, but just taking a look at an old cotton gin. So we just got some shots inside of it just to kind of see what it looked like. Lots of gears. Uh, and then this is, yeah, in Shortner or up in, anyway, there was an old panel van stick sitting out. I love taking pictures inside old vehicles like this. Um, this one, get into Granger or Bartlett. You can see a big city hall there. This is a film shot. City hall right next to the Cotton Country Club, and flags out front. This is Bartlett for sure. So it's all cobblestone. The center part of downtown is all cobblestone. We had an event here, right, Linda, with Georgetown Photo Festival. It did a pop-up thing right here in Bartlett, and there was a venue we had. It was really cold, but we had a great time. And it's a railroad town, right? An agricultural railroad town. So there's one of these towns we were just standing, it's either Bartlett or Granger. We were just standing around taking pictures, and we're literally downtown, but a combine just drove right past us. He was going from his house to his farmland, and just there's a combine rolling down the road. So that's what happens in small farm towns. I did not get a picture of that guy. I wish I didn't have my camera ready right then. Other just fun old vehicles we see around. So we're doing on time. Okay. Um, yeah, so going back, there's the film version, shooting with film, and then a digital version. Barton Springs Dairy, which may have been a dairy in Austin at some point in time, but this little truck made it out here somehow. Local meat market and grocery. A lot of places like that. Once again, grabbing the alleys, a lot of vines on the bricks back here. And Williamson County line. You can see the beech nut sliced bacon sign painted on the side of that building. That's another thing I love to capture is the old painted signs on the sides of buildings in small towns. I did not know beech nut made sliced bacon, so that was a discovery for me. That's just from inside the meat market, and a few veggies for sale in the small town. Trucks, vehicles, always fun targets for photos. Like I said, again, anytime we see a old gasoline dispenser, we're going to capture it. We pulled out the 360 camera. So this is right, literally the center of Bartlett. There you can see the cobblestone road. So this is RJ and myself getting a 360 tiny planet shot of Bartlett, Texas, right downtown. Okay, here's what I use the example of always wear some kind of head covering or have some sun protection. This is where we found the longhorns. I was really enjoying taking pictures of the longhorns, and the top of my head and my face got fairly well burned and I had a perfectly good hat back in the car. But just totally forgot it. I was so excited to get out and go see the longhorns, and we spent more time out there shooting pictures than I planned, and the Texas sun took care of me there. But there's a longhorn shot. Here's my so right at the end, camera pics. There's my Pen F that I love in the place where we stopped for lunch. The 17 millimeter 1.8 on it. And then here's a collection. You can see RJ's uh, uh, Insta360 camera, my Pen F, plus one of his little interesting things. So that's an old Sony Cyber Shot. I think it used a memory stick, and I don't know how many pixels there are, but you could probably count them on one hand. But just kidding. But anyway, we just have fun with lots of different types of old cameras and capturing images with them. So that's our food shot from that trip. Then shifting gears real quickly, and um, tour three, we decided to go do an overnight trip and do a lightning visit to Galveston. What is lightning visit? That means less than 24 hours. So we wanted to capture, so let me go to the next slide. So we just wanted to get nighttime pier shots, downtown night shots, daytime downtown, and maybe some piers at sunrise if we're lucky. So, and this was all in, a short period of time that we all had available. So, I took my Sony A7R Mark II, a Canon A1 that was given to me by a friend, and I did some repair work on and wanted to try it out, and my Insta360 camera also. So this is going to step through these fairly quick, a good number of Galveston pictures. Galveston is not, I don't really consider it a small town, but it's, medium town, and there's some things we wanted to capture in the downtown area along with the piers. So, and this is just I think this was, no, was this one? I think this one was an iPhone shot. But anyway, down under the piers, but you kind of see this, here's a setup. Getting ready with the Sony for the sunset pictures I was going to take. So I like including behind the scenes shots. And so snap that. There's the shot that setup captured. Um, and so we had fun with the piers at night. To me, even more fun when the moon came up, the moon rose, and then we got to take pictures like this, where there's the pleasure pier that they call it, the loop to loop ride, whatever that was, and you got to capture it was one of the special full moons. I don't remember which kind of harvest moon it was or whatever, but just capture it in just the right place at the right time. It was fun to do. There's a film version, same thing, and that was just a fun shoot of the piers. But then we went on a death march downtown. It wasn't a death march for RJ, I don't think, but it was for me. But we did it. He said, "We'll just walk downtown from the beachside hotel." When we did it, it was fine. But this is one of the government buildings. Has this kind of in black and white, has a real Gotham City kind of vibe to it. So I liked how that one turned out. Um, Once again, back alleys, but in Galveston, the back alleys are interesting. Something, once again, Discovery, they put all their transformers on separate poles. I think it has to do with hurricanes and what they have to do if a hurricane comes and stuff gets blown down or whatever. So they just kind of set up their alleys a little different with power. So I enjoyed capturing that at night, and some other alleys, which are just my favorite thing to capture of all. And some of the town spots. They do have a trolley, so the trolley tracks. So Galveston runs a trolley. Um, more back alleys. And then this is with the film camera with the Canon A1, catching the sunrise, the piers, at sunrise. We had had a really nice sunrise. There's the 360 camera doing the same and capturing some video with that. And this is kind of what we got. So some sunrise there with the pier, film shot at sunrise. There's some fishermen out there. We got to capture the beach. This is digital version, and then the film version, and just kitchen shots. And then we walked around daytime Galveston just to see what we could catch. So kind of street photography downtown. You can see in the distance. In this case, there's a huge. It just looks like a cruise ship just kind of parked, did a parallel park at downtown, and so those are always. It's just kind of very different for me. More alleys in the daylight, making some people pictures, both film and digital. Uh, Again, old theater, always got to capture that. This was actually not a film theater, but a production theater in Galveston. More alleys and Star Drugstore, famous drugstore in Galveston. It was fun to shoot. Just some of the old. This was inside one of the hotels. This was their keys and stuff for people when you came up. The old style, you'd ask for your room key when you would come in. And then more just interesting places. There's the trolley we talked about. And there's me. I hate this picture, but I love it because it's just what I look like when I'm walking around. So you can see a film camera on the side, my Sony picture, my Sony camera and the thing. There's actually another Olympus TG tracker camera on my left, which is your right, which does continuous GPS logging. And so I just turn that on and let it GPS log, and then I can annotate locations on all my photos. So that's just as good as good as Doug gets, walking around. And fortunately, I found a few people still willing to walk around with me. So that's great. Now, small town tour 4. So we got 2 more to go. Tour 4, we went southeast, and we actually went southeast twice because of what I said before. You only plan something big enough to do in a day. And so this was Lockhart, Luling, and Shiner. And so, the goals we had, we wanted to get these county seats, southeast of Austin, whatever other towns along the way. And we might have wanted to plan to accidentally be in Shiner for lunch. If for those of you not in Texas, Shiner Beer is one of the big breweries in the state, or famous breweries in the state. So we may have accidentally ended up there for lunch. Um, this time I took my Nikon ZFC and a inherited camera, a Raleigh Flex 35 from my dad that I didn't know until this is my first roll of film. So I didn't know until I got the film developed that there's on the contact plate somewhere, it's scratching the negative as every time you run the film through, it's got a nice little linear scratch through the film. So that just kind of made it interesting and fun. I haven't fixed it yet, but we'll see what we got here. Yeah, so this is, you can see Lockhart, Luling, Shiner off in the distance. But we actually ended up going to Gonzales, you see in the center, that's in the next trip. But we hit Lockhart, Luling, and Shiner. Um, so this was Lockhart. You see this family here. I loved meeting them. This couple, they were walking around the square in Lockhart pretty much before anybody else was there. So wanted to make sure and get a pic with them. They were super nice. And so that's me talking with them. Um, Basically, they they give us some tips on places to eat, including we said we're going to Luling. They said, oh, if you go to Luling, make sure and get a pastry at this place. So they were giving us some tips about the area and which best barbecue place in Lockhart to eat at, or what the ones that the locals like better than others. So just a trove of local information. Is great to talk to them. And that's a film shot, same couple. And then so once again in the county square, they were setting up a farmer's market and stuff. So I bought some pickles from Clem's Veggies. They were very spicy, but very good. And the guys, Clem and his helper, were more than willing to take a street portrait with me. So I had fun getting a shot of those guys both on film uh, and on digital. This is the film one. But those are a great set of guys. And man, those pickles, I love homemade pickles, and those were good. Uh, Lockhart has I didn't know this. Once again, a thing of discovery. They've got a big uh, neon, not just a place that sells neon signs, but they actually make neon signs there. And so that was a neat place to go visit, take a look at inside. More back alleys in Lockhart. And then we got to Luling, which was just such a wonderful discovery for me. I want to go back. I want to take my wife back there. It's just a neat town, and so we just wanted to. Okay, what is Luling all about? So we found out as we walked around and took pictures in the downtown area. It's a railroad town, but it got started. See, I didn't know until we went down there. It's just the discovery part is it was there's an oil field I'd never heard of, but basically Luling started because of this oil field. And so they've got a lot of stuff about there, some history, Storker Museum and stuff about there, and this sculpture out front, kind of showing how they got started in Luling with that discovery of an oil field. And so that was just kind of a fun exhibit there. And I was fascinated with this gas station, painted all up nicely. So took several angles with both multiple cameras on it. And I just love these old filling stations and just trying to get as many angles and some film shots of it too. A furniture store also caught my eye, so got film and digital pics of it also. Um, And also, another thing I didn't know about Luling was they have a watermelon festival. And so there were signs up for all the girls that were running for Watermelon Thump Queen. So I didn't know about that there was a Watermelon Thump Queen. But now I know I want to go back, at the right time of year. June 22nd was this last time, but is to go to the Watermelon Festival. So it's apparently a big deal in Luling, and now I know. And this was just one of the vote for me signs hanging up in a local business. This gentleman let me take a film shot. You can see the scratches in there, but still I really like the shot. So he just sitting down and talking with him. He told me about all his kids and how he's proud of them and who was where, and he just wanted to sit and talk, chew the fat. So we had a great little chat, and he let me take a pic of him also. This guy also very gracious to let me take a street portrait. Um, and mostly I just wanted to try this camera out. This old Raleigh 35, and he was gracious to let me take a shot. This is the theater once again. Always capture the theater if you see it. So this is on film, and then also on digital. But the only thing I don't like about these shots is there's almost always some power lines in these older towns. So I couldn't get a really good front shot of the Stanley Theater, but we were able to get it from the side. Again, old filling station, love old filling stations. This one had been turned into some kind of spa or something, but I didn't hold that against them and still took pictures of it. They also had a beautiful, really nice market, like kind of permanent market set up right by the railroad tracks. So there was a train going by every once in a while. But man, there's some beautiful looking vegetables there. And there were basically multiple kind of permanent stalls. So I guess they were just basically there all the time or when there was stuff fresh. I caught this on film with the train going by, so that was just me trying to have fun with the film camera and be spontaneous and take a snapshot. So there's the melon sign for the farmers market with the train going by in the background, and man, it was loud. It was really loud, but it was kind of a fun thing to see the combo juxtaposition of the moving train and the farmers market right next to it. we're on our last trip, or next to last trip, so we should be able to get through these. Another back alley. This was the back of a famous barbecue place, and the guy was out there taking a rest between stoking the fires, and he was literally sitting 1 foot away from the swamp cooler. You can see they're blowing, designed to blow on him and keep him cool. So he was sitting there, said hi to him, and it was a fun shot for me. More back alleys, lots of back alleys that I love. Film in the back alley. Then we magically ended up in Shiner. Might have had a beer while we were there, and they had barbecue and a beer. But then Shiner was kind of disappointing. Sometimes you go places and man, I love this downtown, like Luling. I loved it. Shiner wasn't that much to it. Didn't really, got a few pictures. The Amish furniture, not store, but they actually made Amish furniture there. Uh, and just a little bit of back alley. This one, we discovered, I think RJ got a lot better pictures than I did, but the people there did not want us there. And so they came out and did not really didn't want us there. We found out later it's because lots of people come take pictures of it because several episodes of The Walking Dead were filmed there, and they were used to having actors there, and people who didn't want their pictures taken and seeing a bunch of photographers show up kind of freaked them out. So they were very adamant about us leaving. We turned around and graciously left. They didn't really want to even let us go, but we walked away and drove away. But now we know it's a very, A-frame motel building. I loved it. We wanted to take more pictures of it, but we were being asked to leave, so we did. So last one, and we'll close out and then give some time for questions and whatever we want to, Linda. We went back to southeast of Austin to hit a couple places that we really wanted to. Um, and so we went back to Seguin and Gonzales. So again, southeast, but Gonzales is a very historic town in Texas. For those of you who aren't from Texas, it's where the come and take it flag was done in the first battle of the Texas Republic versus Mexico. And it was a delaying action to give time uh, for Sam Houston and some others to get their stuff together, get their army together. So it has a memorial and this awesome county jail that you'll see some pics of in a minute. Took the Rolleiflex again, took my Penny E half frame rangefinder. The sad thing is, this was October 12th. RJ's going to kill me, but I still haven't developed the film from this trip. So I don't have any film shots from this one. But you can see Gonzales and Seguin down south of San Marcos, Texas, are the two towns we went to. So just some shots on the way. I didn't know that Seguin was the home of the world's largest pecan, but there you have it. You don't find out till you go. So, and that's why we're doing these small town tours. So there was world's largest pecan. And the Guadalupe County Courthouse, which I thought it's very severe, but I liked the lines a lot. So I really enjoyed photographing it some. Here's just the old Palace Theater. Once again, capture the theater and Stark Furniture, which was still there and still in operation. I just love the front door going in and the little entryway there with the tile. So it was pretty cool building. The Park Plaza Hotel, also a classic building there. Looking into the Park Plaza, it's now not being used as a hotel anymore, but now a event venue. But I just love the classic lines in there. Some other old places around town. Then on the way heading towards Gonzales, these are old pumps, not as old as the other ones we're taking pictures of, but if we see old pumps, we were elected to stop and take pictures of them. So the building was gone, but or shut down, but the old pumps, these are kind of 1980s, kind of 70s, 80s kind of pumps. Uh, then in Gonzales, here's the Lynn Theater. Again, lots of power lines, which I didn't have time to Photoshop out or anything, but You can see the "Come and Take It" right there on the sign there. So that's a big theme all throughout. Everybody's saying "Come and take it." Have the "Come and Take It" flag up, whatever. It's a big part of their identity. Um, and then also famous, they have a free to walk around, free to visit, free to walk around the old county jail. So this is the maximum security cell, one of the cells of the max security cells at the old county jail. Lots of steel. Would not have been a fun place to stay or sleep. Uh, and then this was not the original. They recreated it, but this was after the original design. But they did hang public hangings in that jail also. But just a little bit of history. Again, eat like a local. This is where we ate. I love the colors in the place. Lots of neon. And again, old gas station. You can see me in the reflection on the left. But I love the old filling stations and their look. Saw this guy painting up the Thanksgiving. This was in October. He was getting the Happy Thanksgiving painting on the window there for the store. So I got him doing his craft and trade. I love glass block and the way it was used, mostly in the 50s, I think, is when it really became big, but some glass block. Here's the slightly disappointing Gonzalez Memorial. The reflecting pool was mostly empty and not doing a lot of reflecting, but I got the reflection that I could out of the reflecting pool. But that's the memorial there for uh, the Battle of Gonzalez. And got to get a pic of yours truly in here. And so that's it for the picks. In summary, I had a little hard time thinking of how to summarize this, but really I'm just going to say exploration is a great gateway to creativity. That's what I found in doing this. And there's also kind of addictive nature of discovering new and unexpected things. And if you're just sitting in your house or staying in your town that you're always staying in, you may have trouble finding new things. So it's great to get out. Um, and getting and understanding others, I think, broadens your horizon, seeing how other people live, that maybe aren't in your urban city but they're living in a small town and getting to know them, talking to them. Like some of the examples I showed you of photos where I sat down and talked to some of these people just to kind of get find out where they're at, where they're coming from, and what they're proud of, and whatever. But I think that broadens your horizons when you get to know people from different places. And capturing images in a new place that you're not already set up for, it's a really great exercise for your craft of photography. So that's what we did with these, like I said, not rocket scientists. We just planned some trips and went out and did it. But we went with a theme of let's focus on some small towns and kind of do a loop each time we go out and just capture a lot of photos with some different cameras. We're getting experience, we're discovering new things and finding things out about towns in our area. So whether you're in Texas or Wisconsin or Idaho, uh, there's small towns out there, so go check them out. All right, Linda, I think that's it.
I think that was great. Let me ask you to take your screen down. I've got
Got it.
one one question, maybe some debate in here. Okay, so Donna's question is right off the bat. Are you processing your film?
Great question. I am not that brave yet. Others do. I use Holland Photo in on
Yeah.
South Lamar in Austin, and so I'm not processing my own film. If I do, or when I do, I've got some of the pieces and parts, and I would probably only bite off on black and white, negative developing, and
Mhm.
then scan it. So that's kind of my first step that I want to get to, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah. I like Andy's question. Are most small town folks happy to have you take their picture, or do they look at you like you're nuts? And he's a
There
little
is some of both. That's a great question. Some people are, you know, suspicious reasonably. They see like three or four people walking around with cameras. They're like, what are these people doing? But in for this set of 5 trips, nobody ever came up to us and said, we don't want you here, go away, except for the one film hotel that we
yeah.
shouldn't have been at. But but people are curious, and so people get, what are you guys doing? And so the best thing to do then is just say, hey, I love small towns, and
Mhm.
I'd never been to this place, so I'm just trying to kind of capture, small town life here. And usually that leads to a conversation, right? And as long as you, to me, as long as you act interested in them, meaning, I'm not here, because I don't ever want to come across as I'm someone from Austin, and I'm coming to your lowly place. You should bow down and worship me, right? Never. It's like, you want to be humble and just say, hey, this is a great town. Tell me a little bit about it. Or do you mind if I take your picture? I think I would love to take your picture. And a lot of people, really on these trips, nobody ever said, no, don't take my picture. And I was just looking for people who basically are, really authentically there. There's someone that lived there, and this is how, they're living their life there, and I'm trying to capture that. And if somebody, didn't want me around, I would just walk away, right? I'm not trying to force myself on anybody, and the last thing I don't want to be there if somebody doesn't want me there. So, but they do. There's a few times walking around some towns where there's just people sitting out and they're kind of watching you, right? In these small towns, what are these guys doing here? And as long as you're willing to talk to them if they want to talk, I mean, if you run away, right, that's going to make it very suspicious. But just be open and say, I'm trying to capture, the nature of this town, your town, and I want to learn. I'm here to learn about your town. And that usually works, really well with people.
Yeah. And you allow them the opportunity to tell you something interesting that only they know, you know?
Right.
Yeah. That's been my experience. Danielle's question is, do you decide ahead of time how much time you're going to spend in each town, or you just wing it and move on when you're ready?
That's a great question too. We generally just wing it, we kind of shoot till we're tired of it. We kind of, if you think of in terms of targets of opportunity, what do you have around you? You're walking around and like I've kind of captured what I want to of the nature of this place, and then we move on. There is a clock ticking, you're going to want lunch. If it's in the morning, it's like we we've kind of spent enough time here, so there's a little bit, but there's not. We generally don't like do a strict plan. We just kind of shoot, like kind of the whole thing about not rushing, right? Is like we just shoot as long as our creativity wants us to shoot, and then we move on.
Very good. I'm going to ask this for Elaine. So her question was, what do the locals say is the best barbecue in Lockhart? I,
They
I had an
said,
opinion. Yeah, I had an
they,
opinion. Everybody jumped in with their opinions, but she's like, no, no, no. What do the locals? What
right,
what are they
right.
suggesting?
Now this is something I didn't know when I talked to them, but apparently there's two Blacks barbecues.
Correct.
And their answer when I asked them, they said the old Blacks.
Okay.
That's where the locals go.
Okay.
And so now I'm gonna have to find it next time I go. We didn't eat there that time. Uh, but I think we ate on the way back or something. But we didn't find the old Blacks. But yeah, my next trip to Lockhart, I'm gonna go find that old Blacks barbecue.
That could be a whole day trip, really, is
That's true.
barbecue tours of your little town.
Right, right.
I might want to tag along on that one.
Just do food pictures the whole time. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Susan's question is, do you approach film differently than from digital?
I do, but I also believe that shooting with film, which many film photographers they just helps train them to be more methodical for their digital shooting, right? And that I have found that to be true. Um, I'm being more careful. I'm going to speak for RJ for a second. There's fun things you can do with film, or not fun. I mean, there's what I consider interesting. I haven't done this, but one thing RJ does is he says, "I want to take a perfect roll." So 24 exposure or 36, what that I want each picture to be very carefully composed and exposed, and just and I'm more. I'm not spray and pray with film, but I am, I'm going to take pictures. I might take a couple, and use a little more film than maybe some other people are. But it does teach me to be more methodical. And so I take a lot more, digital shots, right? I really interested in HDR. So when I see a scene that I think will be a really good HDR shot, I'll take those multiple frames, those 3 or 5 frames, just to have something to play with when I get back home. And so I'm not a processing avoider for my digital shots. I'm going to spend some time with them, the ones I like. And some of them I think, well, this one's going to be really good in black and white. I'll convert it to black and white and pick from a bunch of different possible black and white recipes. So I do a fair amount of processing. Hopefully not over processing, but in terms of the capturing the taking pictures part, I will generally take a lot of digital photos on a trip and just capture things at different angles and a lot of like instead of taking the time to figure out if this would be really better as a landscape or a portrait, I'll just take one of both, right? And move on. And spend some more time with it later and see, okay, how's the competition composition working in this one best? So, but obviously with the cost of film, just being a lot more careful with your shots. But I do tend to even shoot more than some other people. And when I'm shooting film. But I'm still in this learning phase on film, so I'm just trying different. I don't even, I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm trying different emulsions, different films, HP5 or T. Just started shooting some with Kodak T-Max, so I'm just experimenting to see what I like. Um, I didn't on any of these trips. I do have a TLR, so a 6x6. Uh, Rolleiflex. And so, no, it's a Yashica mat. Sorry. It's a Yashica mat. But anyway, I do have a lot of fun with that. And you do have to be, you've only got 12 exposures. You have to be super careful, and you can't just, but for me with an SLR with 36, frames, or even my Pen EE it's 72 frames on a half frame camera, you can just take a lot more pictures and see what you get at the end. So I'm kind of a opportunistic film photographer, and there are other film photographers who are much more careful with what they do.
That's okay. I started in film and I didn't know what I was doing, but I shot through rolls and rolls and rolls until I was told, this is a really expensive little hobby. We need to stop the madness, but I still did
Yeah.
it. It was great. I think somebody popped in with another question. Let me see if I can get that open. I kind of collapsed my own little screen here. Um, okay, Andy's question is, when you do HDR, do you merge your images before editing, or do you edit the middle exposed image and sync across the others before you merge?
That's a great question. I merge first. Well, not first. First, I set the white balance on all of my. So some people think it's better to do HDR on the raw file, and there is some technical reasons for doing that. But I will generally make sure I'm happy with the white balance first, get all 3 or 5 frames set to the same white balance and make sure I'm happy with that. And then I merge it and then I edit it. So that's kind of my order of events. Great
Okay, Doug.
question. Yeah.
Um, I want to thank you for coming in here and sharing your presentation and your photos and your stories. Because it's so Texas centric, I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to stop being lazy and get out there and see more of these small towns because we have so many. But this applies, everything you said tonight
Mhm.
applies to whatever state somebody's watching from.
Yep.
Every state has little small towns on top of small towns. So I think just the idea and the concept is we think about it, we just don't get out and do it. And when you see the chat that was generated from your presentation, You're going to see that you inspired a lot of people to think
Good.
differently and maybe stop the next time they go through that little small town on their way to wherever they're going. And so, if only one person does it, this was
Right.
quite,
It's worth it.
this was such a successful presentation. So, thank you for coming in and doing this for me, Doug. Well, it's for me, but for everybody, but really it's a
Yeah.
selfish thing. So, thank you. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Next week, Brent Collick will be here to share his presentation. I'm going to butcher this up and I'm going to let him pronounce it next week, but Chereria, Mexico's national treasure. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful, and I hope that we see you again soon.